Hello and welcome to the Homeless Consultants channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. And today I'm here to talk about TWexit. You know, back in 1996, it was actually more like 95, but I started writing a book as I left graduate school, and I had to come to terms over the previous several years how corrupt academia was, and the whole system, everything. That took you into student loans, which took you into student loan racketeering, which took you into our whole financial system and credit cards and everything else. So I spent 4 years researching and writing a book on those basic topics. Never got published, of course, even though my predictions in there have since come true. But one of the greatest things that came out of that, more so than the book itself, although it did help me to hone my research skills and writing and such, one of the best things that came out of it was that I stopped watching television. And I stopped because I was so committed to this project that I was just constantly researching and writing whenever I was not at work. That's all I did. That's all I did. And remember, back then they didn't really have the internet as such, or not the web as such. So when I talk about research, I mean going to libraries and the university library and interlibrary loan, Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature. You know, I mean, this is what you had to do to get that kind of information. That's a lot of the stuff I have in storage, is that research. But it took 4 years to do that, and for those 4 years, I really stopped watching television altogether. I think early on there was one exception, that was the O.J. Simpson trial, which was quite interesting. Learned a lot there. But it didn't take long before my passion for getting this book done just took me away from television. And here's what happened. At some point, I didn't miss it anymore. I didn't even notice. You know, when it used to be when I would come home from work or from school, it would just be second nature to turn on the television, even if I wasn't really going to watch it, just to have that sound in the background and things. And I never noticed it. From the time I was a kid, come home from school, turn on the television set, plop yourself down, start staring at the box, the idiot box, the boob tube. And as I went over these 4 years, where in the last couple years at least, I just didn't, in fact, I threw out my television. I didn't need it, because I'd come to a point where when I turned on the television again, it literally made me nauseous, made me sick to my stomach, because you could say that I had recovered from this drug. Sorry, I'm not a drug person, never have been, so what do you call that? Rehabilitation, what do you call it, recovery, I forget the terminology for drug rehab, yeah, rehab, right? So you get weaned off the drugs and the heroin addicts all shaken and everything. Well, I didn't go through that kind of withdrawal because I had this purpose to my existence with this book. So what happened instead was, when that was finished and I went back to television, I'd turn the thing on, I was just sick to my stomach. It was so obvious how A, stupid it was, and B, how manipulative it was. It was right in front of your face. You couldn't miss it. And I wanted nothing to do with it. It was insulting. It insulted my dignity. It was just, I couldn't believe that I had been looking at that box for all the years prior to that. And to this day, that remains one of the very best things I've ever done in my life, was to give up television. I haven't owned a television since then. What is that, more than 20 years now. 1996 is when I kind of see myself as just giving it up altogether. And yet I seem to be more and well-informed, better informed than the people around me who stare at the idiot box all day. How could that be? How could that possibly be? And I don't even really do social media that much. I'll go on a Twitter kick every once in a while, but I'm not on Facebook and never will be, for various good reasons. Remember, I studied computer science. I wouldn't be on YouTube if it wasn't kind of a necessary evil, and it's something that I have to weigh. But I'm not into Instagram. I'm just not into those things. You know, if it doesn't serve a purpose, I don't want to be there. Well, the fact is, Twitter has helped quite a bit as far as spreading the word about my videos and such. It really has. But the amount of effort that goes into it to get that far is tremendous. The cost-benefit ratio is very poor. I have to dump a lot of time in there to get attention for people to see what I'm doing. But one thing that became obvious as I was doing it was that my actual tweets, they really just don't matter. Because you're either more or less speaking to the choir, or you're talking to people who are never going to understand what you're saying under any circumstances. And if all they're doing is flying through, reading a little, 128 characters here, and then moving on, deciding whether to hit the heart button or to leave a nasty comment and then move on to the next one, there's no thinking going on there. So Twitter really is just pointless, and frankly, it should be left to the people who don't want to think. It should be left to them. That's what it's for. It's for irresponsible citizens, really. Now, it could have been a great thing, perhaps, but it's not. Now, with what they're doing now, though, censoring the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, if there was ever one individual who has to have the ability to communicate with the American people immediately, it is the President of the United States. I mean, to me, that's a national security issue that Twitter would shut him down so that he can't communicate to us. What if we were being invaded? What if missiles were coming in? And he has no way to reach us because the fact checkers have to look at it first or something like that. Okay, it isn't Twitter's job to determine who says what. And it's all coming out now anyway. This creepy bearded guy, Jack, who runs Twitter, the videos coming out through Project Veritas showing what he's really up to. And it was obvious what they're up to. They're censoring a political group that they disagree with. They're basically doing what the Soviet Union did. They're shutting down free speech of all opposition. And when that happens, it's time for Twitter to go. And when they banned President Trump, within a day, I believe, they lost $5 billion in valuation. There's a lot of blowback for something like that. And we need to keep it going. So, folks, I have decided I am going to participate in TWexit. I'm going to exit Twitter. I'm going to leave it once and for all, forever, just like I did with television, which, again, turned out to be one of the very best things I have ever done in my entire life. The thing is, I didn't make a decision to do it. It just happened. I had something better to do, and it allowed me to deprogram myself from television to get off that drug long enough to where when I turned it on, I literally just felt physically sick. You have to do it yourself to know what I mean. If you could go even 3 months, perhaps, preferably 6 months without television, and then try to watch it again, you will see what I mean. It's a devastating thing. It's one of my existential threats to the United States, in fact. This time I'm going to make just a conscious decision, and this one's pretty easy because I don't have some ego that needs to go on there and get a bunch of hearts or whatever retweets. Just like my YouTube videos, I couldn't really care less if I get a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. It's a problem when you get these kind of cranks these weirdos who actually subscribe to a homeless person's channel, and whenever he releases a video, wherever they are in this world, I'm sure doing something really important, they get a message, oh, a homeless guy just posted a video, and within minutes they have to log in and throw a thumbs down on it immediately. That doesn't bother me in terms of my videos or what I have to say. I mean, they're totally irrelevant. They're not even watching the videos. It just bothers me to think that in this world there are people who are that pathetic. But we know there's people who are that pathetic, and they tend to gravitate toward a place like Twitter. Folks, I'm calling upon you to join the TWexit. The only way we're going to stop these people is to leave them. If nobody's on Twitter, then Jack, the guy with the beard who looks more like a homeless person than I do, he's going to be living in poverty. See, one of my existential threats to America is people's inability to understand the law of supply and demand. If everyone would leave Twitter, Twitter will no longer exist. It's the law of supply and demand. Twitter will be out of business. And that guy who thinks he's so powerful because he has all of this billions and billions of dollars, which isn't real money, That's fake money, just, stock market and such. You can lose it overnight. He'll be put out of business. Now, if even the people who disagree with big tech censoring, if even those people only leave, and believe me, the other half, if it was their beliefs that were being censored, they would be leaving as well. And you know it's true. If everyone who is totally offended by the idea of this bearded creep dictating that the President of the United States of America can no longer speak to we the people of the United States of America in an instant format, if you feel that that's offensive, you need to leave Twitter. And as you do so, you're going to hurt that man more than any tweet you could ever conceive, no matter how many thousands of tweets you leave on Twitter. Leaving Twitter is the one thing you can do to stop that person. Well, actually, there's two things. There's another. Go to their advertisers, boycott them, and tell them that you're boycotting them. And I don't mean tell them you're boycotting them and then go and buy their products. I mean stand up, stand tall, and just like me with Menards, haven't gone into a Menards since. They required me to wear a mask, subverting the U.S. Constitution. Haven't gotten a Little Caesars pizza. Those companies are dead to me. They're gone. Forever. It's called a boycott, and I take it seriously. You need to leave Twitter, folks. Frankly, you need to leave Facebook as well. I'm not on Facebook, so I'm not going to go into that here. But the buzz online is that people are going to leave Twitter at 12 o'clock noon on January 20, the day of the inauguration. And that's what I plan to do as well. I'm going to pay for a hotel room. Costs a lot of money to be there that day, so I can do it. You can either delete your account or you can just abandon it. I think it's best to delete it. Just don't even have it there. Take it away from their servers. They can't sit there and count you when you're not really there to try to get more money from their advertisers. And then spend the rest of the day contacting each of their main advertisers and just search on Google who advertises on Twitter. I'll try to provide a list. Disney and obviously Verizon, huge supporters of Twitter, and therefore supporters of censorship, and therefore supporters of sedition against the United States of America. You need to boycott them all. TWexit, folks. It's time to leave. Now here's the thing. Not only are you going to be hurting this jack and all of the people at Twitter who participate in this kind of evil, not only are you going to be hurting them more than you could by any other means. Those people are going to be looking for jobs soon if you do this. You got to understand what I mean. These people who sit there, they think they're so powerful. They're sitting in there, probably smoking some pot, because you can do that indoors in San Francisco now, right? Can't smoke cigarettes, but you can smoke pot indoors. So they're over there doing their mind-altering drugs, which have blown their brains to smithereens, so that they think they're actually powerful, and they're just sitting there. But then you just do nothing more than leave Twitter, just cancel your account and never come back, and go tell their advertisers that you've had it with them as well. And it's not going to take that long before those pot-smoking crackheads there who think they're so powerful are going to have to go out and find another job, because Twitter isn't going to exist, and Twitter's going to downsize, and they're going to lose their jobs, as they should, because they're doing evil. Leave Twitter, folks. TWexit. The British left the European Union. Brexit. Texas is now seriously, and I mean seriously, pursuing a movement to secede from the Union. They're calling it TWexit. There's a lot of these exit kind of things going on lately, you might have noticed. There's a reason for it. It's our only hope to restore sanity to this world. If we keep participating in this lunatic asylum that these Democrats have set up, we're not going to get anywhere. We're validating it, we're justifying it. It just implies that these people have any credibility in the world of the sane. And they don't. So leave that world. When I left the world of television, which was a fantasy land, and I don't just mean the TV shows, I mean the news. That's how I knew about fake news long before anybody else did. When you leave that, you start to see the real world more clearly. So the benefits to you are tremendous. You are going to waste less time just sitting in front of some kind of a box posting a bunch of tweets that serve zero purpose ultimately, except to waste your time and to waste your life and probably to get your blood to boil. You're going to experience what I experienced when I gave up television, which was freedom and peace. Instead of you interpreting the world through the filter of all this back and forth hatred and juvenile stuff that goes on Twitter, it's going to be gone. It's going to be out of your life. I mean, you're still going to have it in Facebook and other places, but the big offender of it, Twitter, it's going to be gone. And as you go on that way for several days and then several weeks and several months, you're going to see the world itself in a brand new way. I promise you, you will. And it's going to be a nice way, a much better way. And if you feel that, well, we got to have somebody there at Twitter, to defend the right position or the correct position and against the... No, you don't. Remember, existential threat number one to America, cults and cult mentalities. These leftists are in a cult. They're out of touch with reality. By definition, when someone's in a cult like that, you cannot use logic and reason, evidence, proof, rational debate to change their minds. It can't be done. They're in a cult. Stop trying. It's a waste of your life. Don't let them drag you there and have them consume your time and your life trying to fight against people who made a voluntary decision to join a cult. It's their job to get out of it. And hopefully they will do so over time, but it's going to take a long time for them to deprogram from a cult. That's their problem. They got themselves into it. They didn't think things through. That's where they're at. We tried to help them. We tried to bring them back to reality. They didn't want it. So leave them. Have better things to do with your life. I strongly urge you to leave Facebook as well. Zuckerberg needs to get a taste of this medicine as well. None of these little kids should be billionaires, the richest people in the world. They're not even mature adults yet. This is inexcusable, folks. We never should have let it get this far. These platforms got so big that when we started something else like Parler, they just took it down in an instant. We can't let them have that kind of power. And the way you do it is you stop using Twitter. Stop using Facebook. Tell their advertisers, as long as you advertise on these platforms, you're no part of my life. And they will disappear. It's called the law of supply and demand. TWexit, folks, at noon, I guess your time, local, on January 20th. Delete your Twitter account. Never come back. Resist the temptation and the urge. And if you feel any temptation or urge, if something happens in the world and you think of a great little quote that you can, some kind of little tweet you can put on there that's so clever, and all you want to do is get back on Twitter, realize one thing. You are experiencing withdrawal from an addiction. And that's all Twitter is. I've tried using Twitter as an actual tool. If it didn't censor, it could have maybe served that purpose, but it can't. So I'm out of there, and I'm not going to miss it one bit. That's only that much more time I have added to my life and not taken away from my life. And don't feel like we're going to lose touch with each other, because that's not going to happen. Again, the law of supply and demand. These things work themselves out. Other opportunities will happen. Keep your eyes open. Keep watching. It'll work itself out. We will still be able to get done what we need to get done without Twitter, and we will all be better off without it. Alright, so thank you so much for watching, and again, I want you to realize Twitter is a drug. It has the same impact on your brain as a drug. It's time for you to get off of that drug, and to let the drug dealer suffer the consequences of what he has done to you. Free yourself. Add time and peace and happiness to your life by getting rid of Twitter. TWexit, 12 o'clock noon, January 20th. Delete your account and start enjoying your life again. Get your life back from these big tech giants. And if you have the courage to do it with Facebook as well, do it. Good luck to all of you out there. This is probably the best advice I'm going to give you in the last 200 videos. I promise you, if I could give up television and be nothing but happy about it, I can assure you down the road, once you've given up Twitter, you're going to be so grateful that you did. Like a heroin addict who gave up the needle. I promise you. Give up Twitter. Now. Thanks for watching. See you when I see you, folks.